Hi, my name is Mel David. I am a member of the Lake Sebago Canoe and Kayaking Club in Brooklyn, New York. My wife, Ricky David, and I had the pleasure of going on an Antarctic expedition cruise in January of 2018 for 16 days. My wife and I and my beautiful and talented granddaughter, Emily David, who is a student at Queens College, are helping to prepare a video clip to summarize our 16-day trip. We started our trip at JFK in Brooklyn, New York, and then we flew to Florida, and then we flew again to Punta Arenas, which is in the south of South America. We boarded a ship, the Midnight Soul, under the auspices of an Norwegian cruise company. The company is called Hartigruten, Hartigruten. Here is a photo of the ship. Hi, this is Mel David and Emily David.
Hi.
We are at Queens College today. Emily is a student here and I'm a student at Queens College. And we did go on a trip to Antarctica. Emily is helping us in putting together this video clip about our trip to Antarctica. And I'll turn it over to Emily.
Hi, everyone. So, Sabamel and Grandma Ricky, if we could start at the beginning. You went to Antarctica. Why?
Why? Why did we go to Antarctica? Responding to Emily's question about why we decided to go to Antarctica. And the first thing that sort of tickled my fancy was this picture of a man in a kayak in Antarctica. I thought that was really sort of out of space and very challenging, and it looked like it might be very interesting. So that was the first thing that caused me to consider going to Antarctica, that picture. The second part of the motivation was my friend Nort Spiel, who had gone to Antarctica. He was very excited about it. He said that it's wonderful, and he said that the big thing about it is that they have experts on the ship. They have 3 people who are PhDs in ornithology, glaciology, and birds, and you could learn an awful lot, and you interact with different animals, and you see the outdoors. And then he mentioned the fact that if you wanted to, you can go kayaking there in Antarctica, and then you can go snowshoeing there. So that really convinced me. Once I heard that you could go snowshoeing and kayaking there in Antarctica, I decided that that's something that I wanted to do, and I discussed it with my wife, and she agreed that she would like to try it, and we decided to do it. And that was the reason why we chose to go to Antarctica. The picture and the activities sounded so wonderful, and that caused us to decide to go. Hi, this is Mel David speaking about the kayaking experience. It was a 3-hour activity, and I think I did mention that we could have gone for 8 sessions of 3 hours, but I elected not to take that because my wife was with me, and I felt it would be unfair, although I probably would have enjoyed doing it. But I didn't want to leave my wife. 8 days. 8 days I would be away from her, and so I didn't do that. But anyway, the medical certificate is required from everyone who's on the ship. You must have that. And after we elected the kayaking activity, I went to a meeting with Thomas and Will, and Thomas is a person that is a dog sledder. He lives in Norway, and that's what he does as his job after he leaves the ship. Will is a college student going for a master's degree. They mentioned that you needed to have some kayaking experience before you could go out with them. And I'm going to show you some pictures. Many of those pictures are not my own. I borrowed them from the ship photographer. It was really quite an experience. One of the experiences while we were on one of the Zodiacs, those boats, a man mentioned something about he took some ice out of the water. And as he took the ice out of the water, he told everybody that he gave everybody a little piece of the ice. And he said, I want you to know that this water that you now have may be hundreds of thousands of years old. Now, I don't know what the significance of that is, but I thought it was pretty interesting. So I'm relaying it to you now. Hi, this is Mel David speaking. I am just about to start to show some of the pictures that we took while we were kayaking. This lady that you see, her name is Lisa. She comes from England. She's a kayaker. And as I mentioned previously, they did require that everyone present a medical certificate before you could go kayaking or do any of the vigorous things. You have to have a medical certificate. And they ask that if you're going to go kayaking, you have to have proof of the fact that you do kayak. And I have both. So I became eligible to go kayaking. And we had an orientation also. And during that orientation, the two instructors, Tom, who comes from Norway, who during his free time, he's a dog sledder. He takes people out of Norway and takes them dog sledding. Will is also an experienced kayaker, and he was the second person in charge. And we had a wonderful time. We had 8 boats, 2 people in a boat, and we had the orientation, and they told us also what to bring, clothing. And at the end of these pictures, I have a full review of the equipment that they told you to bring out when they went kayaking. So that will be very helpful to my friends in Lake Sebago Kayaking Club. And the book that they recommended is Sea Kayak. It's Intermediate Advanced book by Gordon Brown. I will show you the picture of the book later on. We're going to we'll show some pictures. I'll show you the picture of the book. And this was an interesting experience. We went out, and they asked us to go out in a straight line, and we came from our ship by a large black boat called, I can't think of it right now, but that large boat brought us out to where we found the boats. So that's how we started out. Hi, this is Mel David speaking. I am just going over this particular picture of Lisa and myself in the water. And the boat that I wanted to recall before was the Zodiac. And I'd just like to share a quick story about the Zodiac. There was a time in another boat, a friend of mine told me the story. The person who was driving the Zodiac reached out into the water, took out a sheet of ice, and he broke it up into small pieces. There were about 25 people on the ship, on this little Zodiac. He gave everybody some ice. And he said, look, I'd like you to taste this ice. This ice is very pure. It's clear, it's clean, healthy. And this ice may be hundreds and thousands of years old. Just think about that. You're now consuming ice that's 100 or 1,000 years old. So that we were very moved by that. I'm not sure what the meaning of that is, but it was very significant. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Tom and Tom and his partner both mentioned this book, Sea Kayak by Gordon Brown. It's an intermediate advanced book, and I'm going to bring it to the club, and I'm going to give it as a gift to the Lake Sebago Club uh, as a result of my experience going kayaking in Antarctica. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I was having difficulty keeping the boat straight, and I tried to turn the boat using my paddle. And Tom said, "No, that's wrong. We don't. You don't use your paddle to turn. You only use your paddle to go forward. You have to use your pedals to turn." And I wasn't aware of that. Maybe when I get back to New York and I talk to the people in the club, they'll try to give me correct information about bringing the boat going straight ahead. So that is pretty much that beautiful view that we had together. When you go into the zodiac, okay, so it's sort of on the other. So once you're in the zodiac, they tell you to sit, to spin, no, to sit, slide, and spin. And you'll learn that. You'll eventually get the information once you, if those of you who decide that you want to join an expedition like this. So it's very safe, and it's great for viewing. And a lot of people bring their cameras and they take pictures. Now, if you look, you could see that these people are going out. If you look on land, you'll see that there are people there with poles, and there are walking poles. So they give you walking poles. Those are people who need them. I enjoy using walking poles. So I use it because, first of all, I don't want to fall. And secondly, it tends to exercise your upper body. So I think it's a good idea to use walking poles. So I use walking poles whenever I go, when I go walking in the park in summer or winter, wherever I go, I use walking poles because it works out your upper body. The cardio is the walking, and then you're doing exercise, so you're doing double duty. And it's, as a former phys ed teacher, I always talk to people who are interested in knowing that it's a good idea to use walking poles. So that is basically the information, and then when you go back onto the ship, they brush off your boots to make sure that your boots are clean, and then when you go out the next time, you will not contaminate and keep everything pristine when you go on to the iceberg or when you go on to the land. So that's the story with the Zodiac. Here's just a picture from the Zodiac. Very beautiful mountains and snow. It's just a magnificent scenery. It's just unbelievable what is out there. And a lot of people take a lot of pictures, and it's just magnificent to see what's going on out there. This is an iceberg, and if you look closely, you'll see that this iceberg has turned over at least 3 times. Those marks there are at least 3 marks there that show that this used to be uh, upside down. And when I was kayaking, I was cautioned by Thomas that you can't go too close to them because these things can turn over. 70% of this iceberg is under the ground. So you have to imagine that it's like triple the distance that you see visibly above water and ice, and that's underground. So that flips over and you're close to it, you'll be suffocated. So he cautioned me not to uh, get too close to it, and it was something that I tried to be attentive to, and all of the people that were kayaking We all stayed in a line and we tried to be very careful. We tried to be safe. We didn't want to get into trouble, even though we were wearing dry suits and our boats are supposedly very stable. These boats are exceptionally stable they're very seaworthy. So that is the story with the icebergs and the way these things turn over. You want to avoid getting too close to them because otherwise you can get into trouble, and we avoided that. This bird that you see is one of the few animals that I took. Very hard to get pictures from far away, but anyway, I took this picture, and most of the people on ship every night would go to the photographer or the experts, and they would show the birds or whatever animals they had or whatever they showed, and they were all experts, and they would explain what you have. Most of the people on the ship, by the way, had the old-fashioned long lens cameras, as my son Stephen has and I had. And I now I have an iPhone 6S Plus. I find that phone is excellent camera. And my wife has a 8. And when I took a course not too long ago, they said you have to get rid of your old-fashioned camera because the new phones are comparable, and I think that they're right. Most of the people on board, a quarter are German, a quarter were Chinese, a quarter American, and a quarter Brits and Europeans. And I would say 80–90% of them all had the old-fashioned long lens cameras, and I was one of the few who used this 6S Plus. And this is quite an experience to be able to photograph different animals and different ships. I must admit to you that I'm going to show you some pictures that I did not take myself. I took them from the TV. Each day, at the end of the day, the photographer posted pictures that he took, and if they were good, I used a couple of them and I inserted them into my camera, into my project. Here we are lined up, all of the 8 boats at the beginning. Tom and Will, I couldn't think of Will's last name, we lined up and we got instructions from the captain, Thomas, our leader, and you could see we're all wearing warm hats, life preservers. I failed to mention that before. And we are wearing comfortable clothing, and we were there in January, of course, and the weather was about 35–40 degrees, and it was not bad at all. And I noticed that in New York it was freezing, and I was going to, if I had the time, I would have written to all of my family and friends and said, hey, why don't you come to Antarctica and warm up? Because it's much warmer in Antarctica than it is in New York. So I didn't do that. If you look, you could see the name of the boat. It looks like it's Prijon. I forgot the name of it, but that's the boat. And we were very, very safe. And I enjoyed I'm so happy we did the kayaking because the kayaking was a lot of fun. As I said before, I did not take the 8-day course because we did other things and my wife was with me. But that was a very, very enjoyable part of the trip, kayaking and seeing nature. God in Judaism says that when you see beautiful things, you're supposed to make a blessing, a bracha. And I sort of felt I made a bracha all the time. I think that this is one of those pictures that I copied from the TV. At the end of the day, the photographer showed this one. I don't think I could get that one with my 6S Plus, but the photographer usually explains what the pictures are, and I think someday, let me just stop for a moment. Yeah, someday they're going to have a device, just as they do on the phone. Shazam is a device now where if you uh, turn on your Shazam and you hear music, it tells you the name of the music. Now, I think someday they're going to have an app. They may have it now, where you see a picture and you show the picture and they will tell you the name of the bird. I'm willing to bet you someday they're going to have that if they don't have it now. But that's what I predict. Also, again, we're seeing some beautiful scenery here from the ship. We were on a Zodiac, and great picture of the topography. Really beautiful. Again, a beautiful view of the topography. Very beautiful. I think that this is another picture that I borrowed from the photographer that he posted on the TV, and I included it into the project. I don't know the name of this bird, and I wish I could find out the name of the bird. This is a view from the back of the ship, viewing what we have passed by. I don't know if you can see it. This is all from the back of the ship, and many people, not many, but some people may elect not to go out for the activity during the day. So they just sit on the deck and they look outside of the window, or they could go on to the top and they could see uh, what we have just passed. And this is, I took my 6S Plus and I just videotaped outside the window, and I'm looking outside the window, and right now I'm in the back of the ship, and these are people that you could see who are looking outside and viewing. This is my wife, Renee David. She's on the phone. She talks on the phone occasionally, not too often. But anyway, she's going to be helping me with the snowshoeing, which we'll probably do as our next area that we cover. This is going to just remind you that after we finish this clip, you will see the every cabin has a TV, and every TV has channels. One of the channels on the ship is kayaking, and they have this video that we received from Tudor, and it will explain to you what you need to bring and what they give you, and what you do, how you wear the clothing. So this is the thing that will be coming up next. Okay, this shows you what you're supposed to bring when you go kayaking. It listed sunglasses, headgear, underwear, top them on dry back, and then they show you what you're going to get from them. You're going to get a dry suit, underwear, dry suit, fleece, neoprene, socks, footwear, gloves, life vest, and then they show you how to put it on. And I found this to be the hardest part of kayak, putting on this dry suit. It was murder, put it on. It was so tight. I guess it has to be tight because if you fall in the water, you want to prevent water from coming into your gear. So anyway, so this is what he's doing. This is Thomas, the Norwegian guy who works with dog sleds in the off season, and he's showing you how to put it on. But they have people there when you put on this gear. There are people there who will assist you, so you don't have to worry that if you miss something here, you don't have to feel that you won't know what to do. But the gear is terrific, and it's very warm, and it works well, and it's excellent. So yeah, and he puts the powder on to lubricate so that you can get it on and off. So that's the reason for the for wearing for putting powder on. And this is, we're grateful to Tudor, who is the chief executive officer of the ship, for sending me this clip. Nice enough to send it to me so that I can show it to all my friends from Lake Sebago and other places. Puts on his life preserver. Notice that there's a card there. There's a card that you, an ID card that you wear on board when you're on the ship, and you have to carry that with you at all times. You get on the ship and off the ship with that card. That way they keep a record of if anybody's missing. That's the card that you need to present. There's your dry bag. If you want to, you could buy all these things on ship. The ship sells all of these items that you need if you want to go on this trip. There he is, Thomas. Thank you so much. Wow, great.
Okay, I'm here to share some of my experiences with you of our Antarctica trip. It could take me the rest of my life to really describe most of the adventures, but the one in particular that I have to say that I enjoyed the most was the snowshoeing experience. Now you have to realize that my husband practically had to drag me to Antarctica to begin with, and now I really feel it was the experience of a lifetime. As for the snowshoeing, I've been snowshoeing before, so I thought, okay, what's the big deal? You go up a hill and you come down again and you're wearing these cool shoes. What I didn't realize was how much of a trek it would really be. It was very, very difficult, but of course I plodded on because what was my alternative? Any other time that I snowshoed, let's say maybe in Mohonk or in Vermont, if I didn't like it, I could come back. Here, there was nobody there to take me back to the ship, and if I couldn't walk back to the ship, well, I guess they'd have to bring a helicopter in to get me out because there was no other way that I was leaving. So I was determined, and I just put one foot in front of the other and really plodded on. It was very, very difficult, probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done, but I got so many accolades when I was done. After all, I am pushing 80. My husband was 83 at the time, just turned 83. So all the accolades, I guess, made it a little worth it. Would I do it again? I think I would. I think I would. Because, as I said, it really was a unique experience. And I hope that many of you will get to do it yourselves in the future. Signing off, Ricky David.
This is Mel and Ricky David. We're just doing a voiceover on the snowshoeing, and this is the first site. Ricky will make comments if she feels she wants to make a comment at any time. This is the ship that we were on, and from the ship, we went on to a boat called a Zodiac rubber boat. This is the boat that you could see in the foreground, and the boat would take you to the shore or wherever we were going. This particular time, we went to an iceberg, and we were on this Zodiac for a few moments, not a long time, and everybody is dressed. You'll see in a minute. They wear these beautiful rubber jackets. They're very, very warm. And on top, we have a life preserver. And on top, some people carry cameras. I have a phone, 6S. My wife has an 8. But most of the people have the old-fashioned long-lensed cameras. And here's in the center here, you see my wife, Ricky, and we're all dressed warmly, and we were never really cold. It was cool, but we were fine. Here we went onto the ship, and if Ricky wants to say anything about the snowshoeing, Ricky, do you want to say anything about it, or you rather not? What you want to say?
Well, I think I've already commented on the snowshoeing before the actual exercise, but now I'll just say a word about the landscape. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Just white, 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 white snow, mountains of snow, everything just, you feel as though you are intruding on some kind of other planet. I guess that's why they gave us red jackets, because they just stand out so glaringly against the white snow, the blue sky. It really is quite a spectacular view and a spectacular experience.
I just want to add to this that I'm a biker, as you may know, and I have friends of mine, when they do an event, they prepare, they do training. And I would think that anyone who, although we were, my wife and I are both in our 80s, and most of the people here are older. I would say they're mostly 50, 60, 70, and some of them as old as I am. I think I'm one of the oldest there. But we had a hard time. I must tell you that I was concerned. I'm in pretty good shape. My wife is in good shape. But it was difficult. And I was saying to myself, if we got stuck, I don't know what Ricky would have done. They would have had to gone back and gotten a sled or maybe some vehicle and bring her back. But there was no way in which we could go back. We didn't have a choice. And Ricky knew that she didn't have a choice. So she did very, very hard work. And we both continued, and it was quite exhilarating to know that we accomplished something. It was, I would say, 2.5, 3 hours, pretty much continuously going uphill a good part of a time and working your upper body with these poles. It was really quite a challenge. And I anybody who's interested in fitness, this is the kind of thing that you could train for. You could do it on a treadmill, or you could do it on exercise bicycle. Here is Ricky in the front, and I didn't want to be at the end because I knew if she was at the end, she might stop. So I encouraged her to stay in the middle. And it was a great experience. And those of you who, Sebago or others who see this video, decide they want to do this, it's a good idea to get in shape for the event. It was really a wonderful time. Signing off, Mel and Ricky David signing off on the snowshoeing